and welcome back. We are Talking XP, and today we have a special episode for you. In celebration of the final release of Zack Snyder's Justice League, we're doing a little kind of impromptu review. The date we are recording this, it is March 19th. The Snyder Cut came out yesterday. I watched as soon as I got off work. I started at 7:30. I ended at 11:30 at night because, as we all are perfectly aware now that we've seen it, it is 4 hours and 2 sweet minutes long. So with me, I have Jonny.
Well, hi.
It's me, Daniel. And then I've also got Ryan.
Hello.
So I think let's not waste too much time. Let's just jump right into it. Jonny, Ryan, thoughts, feelings? Now, okay, I want to actually, before we go in too deep,
Okay.
neither of you guys saw the original Justice League, correct?
I was going to start with that. I didn't see the original Justice League. I also don't really remember Superman, Batman
Man of
v
Steel.
Superman.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that one. I do remember Man of Steel. That one was, I thought actually was a pretty good movie, but I didn't really have any thoughts about that. I thought Batman v Superman was garbage. Hot garbage.
Not a good movie.
And then I forgot that Superman died at the end.
Yep.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that
Yeah, he
because there was
sacrifices
like a
himself to
whole
defeat,
subplot
Doomsday.
that. Yeah, I totally forgot that Doomsday was even a part of that movie. It was forgettable for me. That being said, starting off Justice League with him dying, I was like, wait, are we just gonna skip over the fact of the explanation of why Superman died? And then I had to Google search it, and I was like, oh, got it, right. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
that movie you didn't
So
like.
starting off pretty bad.
Okay.
But
Damn.
the DC I've never really liked, honestly. I think that they've, and this is one of the points that I really wanted to set up, is that DC has always seemed like it was playing catch up with the MCU. But what they should have done is they should have taken their time. They should have taken their time, created their characters, and made something make sense. But with that being said, focusing on Justice League, I thought the beginning, first 2 hours of all the origin stories was boring as fuck.
7 parts in this movie.
Once they get the Justice League together and they start actually working towards the end, that was cool. I really liked the ending of Justice League. That was it.
Okay. Ryan.
I think
And you did not see the original cut,
I did
right?
not see the original cut, no. And for similar reasons as to what Jonny has said, I am not nearly as harsh as I think a lot of people are with Batman versus Superman. I think when I watched it originally, that was the last DC film I actually watched in theaters as well. Batman in it, I enjoyed I enjoyed Ben Affleck as Batman in that movie. I thought they portrayed his gadgets and all the stuff he did in that movie while he was fighting Superman very interesting. Like, out of all of the different iterations of Batman, not including the really cartoonish 60s Batman, he never has really used that many gadgets in any of the films, really. I mean, some of the 80s films, he gets close, but I think in Ben Affleck's Batman, that was the closest we've seen to how Batman operates on a day-to-day basis. Granted, I think that'll change with maybe Robert Pattinson's new Batman with Matt Reeves.
Well, he's also new too, so in that movie. But anyways, besides that.
But regardless, like I said, I didn't think Batman vs. Superman was the worst movie ever. I know the big contention with it was the Martha scene, which I completely agree is stupid.
The writers, I don't know what the fuck they were thinking.
I don't think I'm a fan of Zack Snyder. Granted, I know I haven't seen a lot of his work. I mean, I know that 300 is basically just a meme at this point.
It always was.
It always was. And then
That
Watchmen,
makes
I know,
sense,
is one of his best films in theory. I've still never watched it, but I don't like his edgy, I say that within quotations as well, his edgy dark style. And his use of slow motion is so obnoxious. That is why this film was 4 hours long, because half the film is in slow motion. And
because we had a cyborg football scene that was all in slow-mo that didn't need to be in slow-mo.
I understand. I have since, as I finished watching it and before we started recording, I watched a couple of videos basically explaining all the differences between the different cuts. And I can understand the things that were put back in here. The things I cannot understand is why he continues to use slow motion, which I say that, but I know why he does it. He's pretty consistent throughout his films that I know and how he uses it. He uses it a lot in not backstories, but basically in flashbacks, he uses slow motion a lot, but also in all the action scenes. Basically every single action scene in this movie, starting from the very first big one where the Amazons are all being slaughtered by, Steppenwolf I don't know how you say his name.
Steppenwolf, yeah.
But that scene was all in slow motion as well, and that was so obnoxious to watch. The pacing in this movie is garbage.
Okay.
Wait, but that being said, like I understand why all the background story were in there, but you could still do it in a faster pace. It doesn't need to be a snail pace.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm not done yet.
Okay.
Oh shit! Here we go.
Okay, keep going.
The biggest part to me, like I said, was the slow motion. The only part that was justified to do slow motion was the Flash. The Flash is justified to be shot in slow motion just because of the way his scenes are having to be. Everything else, though, with very few exceptions, I think it's so needless. Like even the flashback scene, which I think has been slightly changed because it wasn't even in the original where Darkseid, because he's not even in the original film at all. But when they were explaining the origin of these cubes in the flashback, where Diana, Wonder Woman, is just basically narrating what happened a long time ago, which made me think back to the original Thor film, where they're doing the beginning of that film where they had the huge fat fight. That film did it way better. They did it fast. Like they got what you needed to know, and they did it enough to where you were fine. This film, they set up Darkseid to be a really big bad guy, which is great. That's what he's supposed to be. But literally, her narration had to be stretched out over that entire sequence, rather than her just explaining it to Batman. It's like, oh, this happened and this happened and this happened, because they had to show all the slow motion for each scene. They could just show it.
I do want to say that the narration was split up so often that it was distracting and annoying. But
okay.
Daniel, what's up?
I got to give my 2 cents because I have not yet had an opportunity to talk about the movie quite yet. And I want to give you guys your time, but I'll just say for any audience members, I did see the original cut of Justice League. And let me just say that this movie is hands down a better movie and an enjoyable watch. And if we were to rate it out of 10, I'd probably give it a 7.5 or an 8. It falls into a recommend for me. I have a coworker at work. I was chatting with him just earlier today. For him, he thought it was amazing. He'd go 9. I think that's stepping a little over.
Excessive.
He's a big old nerd though, so I understand where he's coming from. The thing that I think is lost if you haven't seen the original version, and obviously nothing should be justified by comparing it to something that is worse. Yeah. So that's kind of unnecessary, but at the same time, I think that's the best way to sort of appreciate how interesting this is as a film. Because first of all, as someone who is also similar to Ryan, I am not a Zack Snyder fan. I've seen 300. I've seen Watchmen a couple of times. I do not like style. The slow-mo that you're complaining about, that's his trademark thing.
Yeah.
He uses it constantly. He uses it too much. That's his problem with most of his movies. I don't like him as a director. I think this is the best thing he's ever made. I think this is hands down probably the biggest success of a film that he's had. And the reason is because it's not really a movie, okay? Because when you watch this, the other thing that I came away saying was, okay, now having seen both, I understand how the first movie came around. There were some choices that didn't need to be made. There were egregious mistakes that were made by Joss Whedon, but I understand why. Because you can't release this 4-hour movie in a theater. It just wouldn't work. And the main problem that I had with the first movie is that it moves too fast. None of the fucking plot makes sense. Let me explain. The first scene that we get in the new Zack Snyder cut is Superman's death, and we see the mother boxes awaken. Cool scene, right? It kind of sets up what the movie is going to be about. And then shortly thereafter, we're kind of giving context for what the mother boxes are, who's looking for them, why are they looking for them, why are they important. Do you know how the other Justice League starts? It starts with Batman on the roof, tying up some like burglar dude that he then uses to lure a parademon that pops out of nowhere, which he traps in a net and explodes, leaving an impact crater with 3 boxes, to which Batman says, 3 boxes? This must have something to do with the plot of the movie. That's 3 minutes of screen time. That's how they set up the movie. It makes no fucking sense.
Here's the thing. So I understand that there's the 2 different sides of the pacing. And I can't defend, and I'm not going to defend the original. I understand the original sucked. That's why I didn't watch it.
Yes, that's fair.
But the point, though, that I'm making, though, is you can still have all the necessary elements that you need and not have it be 4 hours long. Like,
to me, the time felt appropriate. And the reason it felt appropriate is because the biggest flaw with this movie ever existing in the first place, which is they want to do a collab movie, but they don't want to introduce the people who are coming together.
And see,
we didn't get a Flash movie, we didn't get a Cyborg movie, we didn't get a Batman movie. All we got was Batman v Superman and Man of Steel, and that's how we ended up here.
And
so they had to take so much more time to introduce everybody.
Right, and I understand that part of it as well. But that's the part that I agreed with Jonny the most, and I've always thought this about DC, is that they're just trying to jumpstart their universe without actually doing the work
taking
to
the
do
time.
It.
Yeah,
you would
just
not
saying these people are together now.
That's why this movie fails so hard versus Avengers, which succeed so well,
Because
is that
they
they
were
took
just-
their time to put it
to build it
together.
up.
And that's why this movie is 4 hours long. Is like you said, the entire first half of this movie is doing all of the backstories for each of these characters,
Which is terrible.
You do not. I mean, it's. I wouldn't say that it's terrible. It just paced terrible. Like,
I'm going to say something controversial.
Okay.
I think this movie is equally as good as the first Avengers.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think that's completely.
I disagree
with that as well.
I disagree.
I think this
I would
is
say that
just as good as the first Avengers.
See,
I would say that the later half would be on par, but the first half ruins it.
Okay. Hey,
I don't necessarily.
I'm just saying how I feel, you know?
I don't
No,
necessarily agree with Johnny's comment as well, saying like the first half wasn't terrible. I mean, granted, I was just telling Sabrina while she was drawing the Harpy art earlier, because I was watching this after I watched Falcon and the Winter Soldier that just came out at midnight,
Which I haven't
last
seen
night.
yet.
Watch, yeah.
And so I watched it like starting at 1 a.m, and I was watching the first 20 minutes, like watching everything that's happening. It's like it was the first 20 minutes I was already tired of all the slow motion, because that's I think that was when you first had the Amazon scene, and I just was watching this. I was like, I am so done with this. And I just looked over to Sabrina. She wasn't paying attention to anything. I just told her, I do not care. I just do not care. Like,
fair.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fair. Your criticism is fair. And I don't think it's a perfect movie by any stretch of the imagination. It's just seeing it and comparing it to the other version.
absolutely.
The first one. I'm sure that's a great idea.
It makes it so fascinating.
I completely can understand that, because I know, like, obviously, because spoiler, obviously for everything, like Martian Manhunter's in this, and he's not existing in the other one. Like, there's so many things in this.
Let me ask you guys a very pointed question. How did you feel about the ending? The final fight, and specifically how that final fight ended with the Flash. What was your guys' take? How did you feel about that?
I thought it was cool.
See, yeah, it's cool.
I mean,
but
I knew it was coming,
and I
thought it was really cool.
I also know that in the original that's not how it's like at all, because Darkseid's still not in the movie in the original version. So like,
Correct.
Also that's not how the speed of light works either.
Well,
So-
right, but it's the speed
Well,
force.
but he doesn't.
It's different.
It's the Speed Force. Yeah. Don't
cool.
go there, Johnny.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I don't know DC.
I'm
Sorry.
definitely a fanboy. I definitely know my shit, so don't go there.
See, I don't
Shit.
remember
Final fucking-
specifically what happens, but I know it has nothing to do with that. I know
So-
it's not. I know Superman is completely different in the ending of the other
Yes.
one, because he's a lot more his comic book joyful kind of personality, which I still think should have happened. I think that version of Superman is is better, because that's what Superman is. So I do think that's how he should have been. I understand why they don't have him that way in this.
I will say
have no issue
he's
with Superman.
funnier in this version than in the other version.
I think the writing in the other one's still shit for how they handle that. But
so the biggest difference, especially in this final scene, because I think the final act of this, especially like when they go to Russia and they fight the big bad Steppenwolf. Dang, you got me doing it too, Ryan. Is there's all these things that they add and that they cut out. First of all, they make Superman. The reason why they bring Superman back is because he's the only person strong enough to fight. And in the other movie, they bring him back because they're like, we could never have a Justice League without Superman. And we're all like, I don't know, you're Batman, The Flash, Wonder Woman, and Cyborg. You guys are all pretty fucking legit. You don't need him. You want somebody super strong because you've been got your ass kicked a couple of times now by this dude. So I understand why you want him back, but they don't need him back to be their leader.
Here's the thing, like especially with how they portrayed in this version too, like they kick his ass so many times, like
all the time.
Like they didn't lose at all, really.
They just needed to figure out where his place was. That was the only thing. That's the only thing that was protecting him, was that he could teleport.
I mean, he got one up on them a couple of times. It was the whole thing about how they're not fighting together, and then when they team up, they finally defeat that guy.
Yeah.
A little hokey, but they tell that story. So one of my favorite parts of the movie is when Superman shows up in that final fight, and when he intercepts Steppenwolf's axe, and is like not impressed. Great fucking line. Loved that. That was sick. In the other movie, he says something stupid like
something about truth and justice.
I believe in truth and justice or whatever.
Yeah.
So there's that. So the biggest difference between the ending of the other movie and the ending of this movie is that Cyborg's up at the mother boxes. He tries to pull them apart. He says, "No, I can't. Superman, help me!" And then Superman does it, and that's it. They just they get there,
super
they get their hands on the boxes, they get the boxes apart. Hey, movie's over. It wasn't even that hard. What's the big deal?
I do appreciate because like that was my biggest problem, was that Superman wasn't there at all for the entire ending, and then he just was gonna fly in and just kick his ass, which he did, which was awesome.
So good.
It was
fucking lasered off his head. Oh, it's a sweet scene.
Like that was pretty cool. And then and then it happened, and then of course he did the Speed Force reverse time and all that jazz. It's like that's a way better ending, and then they have that stare off with Darkseid. Like that's just badass.
Yeah,
and alludes.
So
to
the reason why they don't do the ending that we got here is because Barry Allen has a completely different task in the other movie. First of all, his character is almost completely different. He's like a brand new superhero. He doesn't know how to be a hero, and so Batman kind of coaches him through. In this, Barry Allen's already kind of badass.
Yeah.
Still a klutz. He's still not super useful all the time, but he understands his powers. He knows how to use them. And one of my least favorite part about the original Justice League is the final fight is interrupted by, the nuclear wasteland where Steppenwolf sets up his thing.
Family.
There's a town there. So there's a huge part of the final fight of the movie is that people are leaving this town, and there's this family that's trying to get out that they have to save. It breaks up the action awfully. There's no continuity because they're constantly cutting back from this fight that I care about to this random ass group of family members that I don't care about, and the Flash has to go save them. And I'm like, why are you over here? Those bros over who are fighting the villain, the villain that the movie's been about, they could use you right now, but he's just off doing his own thing. So the fact that they lose, and the bomb goes off, and then he has to run back in time. That scene was so cool. And also one of the coolest special effects shots of the movie is when he's running back in time and you see Superman's arm and it starts
with the bone
materializing
and the muscle
back
and
as the time rewinds.
Yeah,
that's
same with
so
Cyborg.
Cool. Such a cool shot.
I agree. So one of the things I will say that because I completely like the ending, and of course they had the epilogue, which is a whole nother story. But
fucking hate it.
The thing that's I don't like about it is it's too long. I appreciate what they're doing. I do like the chapter cuts. I thought those were they were very unique.
That was
But all that being said, you can still cut it down, not to necessarily a 2.5 hour movie. I think you could still cut it down to a 3 hour movie, and have all the necessary information you need, and not have it feel too slow and not too fast. I think
Johnny. Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry, Ryan. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I was just gonna say I think that a 3 hour movie would be fine for this. That's what Avengers Endgame was, and Avengers Endgame had a lot of stuff, but Avengers Endgame was very, very fast. Same with Rise of Skywalker. Rise of Skywalker was also really fast, but also that movie, that's a different story. But
I will not talk about Star Wars because I don't like Star Wars, at least the newer ones. Okay, but anyway, sorry. I said I wasn't going to say anything, but I said something. Just a few things that I noticed. I couldn't watch it in one sitting, which sucks. That's one of the biggest things about movies, is that you should be able to watch it in one sitting, but I could not. I had to go to the bathroom maybe like 4 times during this whole thing, and most of that is because I drink way too much water. But
I did watch it in 2 sittings as well. I watched the first half last night, and I watched the second half.
I watched it in 3. I watched the origins, then I watched them coming together, then I watched the ending. A lot of that is because of life stuff, but regardless, I couldn't watch it in one sitting, which is a big deal for me. Number 2 point, they should have made this a series, which brings back to my number 0 point. They should have fucking slowed the fuck down and actually focused on making this good rather than doing it. We saw how Game of Thrones last season ended up because they rushed way too fast. They had a bunch of points that they needed to get through, and they rushed, and it just turned out half-baked. I think that Justice League suffered from that. I'm not saying that it's bad. It suffered from it. You cannot say that it didn't. Point number 3. And this is going to be a few points, because I thought these are some... Whenever I watch movies, I always write down parts where I'm like, what the fuck? Okay, so... very beginning, when there's terrorists that are, and I know this is origin story just showing who is doing what, whatever. I'm not really going too deep into that. It's just movie points, acting points, directing points that I just fucking hate, and it throws me out of the fucking movie. Dude with briefcase walks by the guard and then kills him in the street. I don't understand why he did that. It was probably just like, this would be cool. It just fucking
cool.
threw me out, and I was like, this is stupid. Then he walks into the metal detector instead of around it when there's so much room to walk around it. I was like, why? It was because it was cool. I understand. Cool. What's the point of sealing the Amazonian building if it's just gonna fall off a fucking cliff? They closed it off and they did nothing and it just fell off the cliff. What's the fucking point?
Well, you lock them in and then you drop it off a cliff. That makes perfect sense.
But it broke because everybody got out. It didn't make any sense.
Well, because they can fly. It wasn't the plan didn't work, but it was a plan.
I know, but it was just a point where I was like, oh, we closed it. Cool. Oh, it's falling into the ocean. There's no way that it would stay in one piece. I'm not going to get too deep into this. I don't give a shit. It's just points that I'm like, whatever.
You think you could survive if you fell off a cliff just because the building you were in happened to be breaking on the way down? No, you'd still die.
See,
if you're a powerful being that could just do stuff like teleport.
Like I said, it wasn't a great plan, but it's to make sense still.
Sure.
So
I don't care.
I have a few things as well. One of the
okay.
Wait, hold on. I think Jonny had one more.
Let me get through these points because these are just
done.
random stupid.
My bad.
I'm not done. I got quite a few
No.
more. They did a great job of showing badass women with the Amazonians. I thought they were really cool. Swapping the cube around between horses and women, super sick. Also showing those fucking yoked ass women that were breaking the doors to begin with, super sick. Got goosebumps. Gillette product placement with Batman shaving when he was completely shaved anyways. That was fucking stupid. The sketch of Batman that nobody knew.
No, it wasn't Batman. It was a parademon.
No, it looked like because it went to what's his face, and he was like, yeah, no, I know it's Batman. I know it was a parademon, but like nobody knew that it was Batman. Nobody even thought that it was Batman, and it looked exactly like Batman.
They did think it was Batman, but they were wrong.
Yeah, no, that's yeah, I agree.
But in the very beginning, nobody knew what it looked like. They were like, well, who's this guy? And then it went to what's his face,
Jim Gordon, right.
Gordon, and then he's like, oh, I know who this is.
Right.
I understand that part. Yes.
Well, he said, I know who you think it is. He was saying that I understand what you think, but I know that you're not right.
Right.
So I'm gonna go talk to him.
But the people in the very beginning had no idea who this could have been, and it was like, dude, it looks exactly like Batman. How would nobody know who this is?
It does look
anyways,
like Batman. Yeah, that's fair.
Anyways.
Yeah, I agree with that.
The amount of times that Jason Momoa takes his shirt off, great.
Where does he get those shirts from?
I don't know, but I don't know why he puts it on.
The Atlantis Goodwill?
He should just keep them off because they were great. And then the Amazons make a tomb. The Atlanteans make a temple. The humans fucking bury it. They were just like,
yeah,
I
they're
don't
not
know where
very
to put
smart.
this.
They're not.
They
They're
just
not
started
very
digging
smart.
a hole.
Yeah.
They put it in the fucking ground. That was great. The Flash. When the woman was in the convertible and just slammed into that truck, she was smiling?
Well, because Barry's hot. He's cute.
But she didn't see him. She just fell out of the fucking car and was like,
That's supposed to be Iris West. So if you're a Flash fan, you'll understand what that means.
no idea, but she fell out of her car and was smiling while the Flash was saving her. I was like, what?
She's the
No.
Flash's love interest in the comics.
I mean, yeah, that was kind of obvious.
Yeah.
Mercedes car CGI as it was driving away. First, they started with Batman driving it, and then they started off with him like
I know.
driving off, and
I
I was
thought
like,
that was like,
what the
what?
fuck was
Cool
that?
car though, right?
They couldn't just drive. Anyways, it was distracting.
Yeah, I thought that exact same thing.
Also, Cyborg, an emotionally traumatized boy that just lost his mother, who was basically a single parent next to his absent father, they just gave him powers of a god in a modern world.
Yeah.
You could change monetization, you could basically change the political system. He could do anything he fucking wanted, and they just gave this traumatized kid, this emotionally traumatized kid that hates his fucking father, all of this power. Without any, his dad had no fucking clue who his son was, and he was just like, yeah, you could just control the world, that's fine, cool.
Well, but you did get the flashback where you learn that he is a good guy. Although
He's
I
a
guess
good guy.
helping a friend by changing her grades, who knows exactly what the morality of that is exactly, but
Who cares?
he's a
regardless,
hero.
Regardless,
Superman is god powers too.
regardless, whatever. I'm putting that aside. Flash destroying the falling debris after they go into the that like
Yeah,
building.
Yeah.
So sick.
Yeah, cool
Showing him
scene.
like his shadow like oh, that was so cool. That was so cool.
Yeah, cool scene.
Cyborg's auto defense only works for Superman. That's it. Super fucking stupid point. So bad. He was like, oh, I can't work. and then
other
when
thing-
they're in this other spot and the dude's attacking him, he's like, oh, I'm good and it's fine.
Other thing about the flashing you're just talking about too is like he did all of that and then he just so happened to like he moved faster than anything in the world, but he just so happened
But he
to
missed
like, not
that
see
one,
that
yeah.
one. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
stupid. But yeah.
Now, and the very last one that I want to talk about is how cool Superman moving as fast as Flash was. Oh, that was so cool. I knew that he can move almost as quick. I know that Flash is just a little bit quicker than Superman, or I don't know. Anyways,
Don't go there. We can go
I'm
there.
not gonna
if you
go there.
want.
Yeah, I knew I was pushing a button. That was really cool though, with him just barely just getting next to him with those punches. That was so cool. I thought that was a really cool part.
I mean, I
Anyways.
know that part was also included in the original, but it's still such a badass moment where he just
With
looks
him-
to the side.
With his eyeball just going to the side, he's like, I fucking see you. No. And then he just like tries to bitch slap him and he's like, oh, okay. Anyways, once we get past the origin stuff, it's a really cool movie. All of the origin stuff should have been like a series or its own movie.
Yeah.
They should have stayed with that. And then it gets better at the end when they start beating Darkseid. Or,
So-
well, whatever, it's Steppenwolf.
Before,
That's all I
I
have
just
to
wanted
say.
to say that, so Ryan, you thought that it could have been shorter. Johnny, how'd you feel about the length? Was it appropriate? Would you have wanted a little shorter?
Too long. It was
Too
too
long?
long. Like I
It-
said, it was not a one sitting movie, and I really like one sitting movies. If it is long, one sitting meaning like I am engaged the entire time, and I wasn't.
I wanted more. I could have done with another hour, maybe
See,
maybe more if they had it.
I think this movie it needed everything it had, but like I said, the slow motion is what slowed it down. It like the
It
slow
did.
motion, like if you took that out of it, that would reduce the movie
But
at
that's
least
Zack
by
Snyder,
I understand, but
you know?
that's the dumb part about it. But like literally, if we got rid of that, honestly, the pacing would not be nearly as bad. But
Fair.
that's really the big thing.
Fair.
And then the one other thing I did want to say.
Well, okay, so before you move on, I just want to say I like slow mo. I'm not like there was an excessive amount. I like slow mo though. It was pretty cool.
I can
don't know.
admit there is an excessive amount. I also thought it was cool.
I think
I like
yeah,
slow-mo.
there's cool moments in it for sure, but like
But not a football time.
Yeah, you
like
don't-
that
you don't
football
need-
scene was you didn't need it.
you don't need that.
But
You
anyways.
don't need it 100% during the entire flashback of the prior war. Like, sure, in certain quick moments, but you don't need the entire sequence moving at snail pace. But on the flip side, I know that this is how they did it in Man of Steel, and it carried through to Batman versus Superman, and then also to this movie, and I'm sure it did it in the Wonder Woman film as well. But the way that they move when they move really fast is stupid looking. They just like poof, like they just teleport.
Oh,
no.
gotcha.
The way the Flash does it makes sense.
The way the Flash was running was so weird. He looked like he was.
We won't even go there. I don't like Ezra Miller as an actor, I think is what I've realized.
Gotcha.
That being, I did actually really enjoy his performance as Barry Allen.
I liked his
in
performance.
This. I thought it was fun.
I just didn't like his running was weird. I thought his running was just like weird. I don't know. Nobody runs like that.
The pet scene in the pet shop, that wasn't in the original film, right?
No.
Okay. See, what I really liked about that scene and the way that they established his character, even though anybody who knows comics period knows what the Flash is and what he can do, but the way I really enjoyed his performance in that scene is that he was talking so fast and he was all over the place because his brain was going a million miles an hour. I do appreciate the smaller things that he does to his performance. Mm-hmm. And I you probably gonna disagree with me, obviously, Daniel, but I thought the Flash was the funnest character in the film. I thought he was the most enjoyable. He's definitely the coolest character. But going back to the point, like the way the characters move at lightning speed in the action scenes where they just kind of teleport across the screen and just smack into somebody. You don't need to shoot that in slow motion, but also the way you do it is stupid. The way they handled it, like all those super fast moving scenes in, this is going to be a throwback, is the DC Online intro cinematic. They showcase everybody's abilities really well. I think that's the best.
That's a cool cinematic.
That's the best. I hate to say it, but that's the best DC's. I mean, I'm not gonna say it's the best that they've done because they've done a lot of really great animated
cartoon
films. But that's
stuff.
the best, like actual, like cinematic masterpiece that they've ever, I feel, done. That really encapsulates all their abilities in a really awesome way. It showcases them visually really well. I don't like the style where they just teleport across the screen at lightning speed. It's like, and like that was the first scene when Jonny was talking about the Wonder Woman scene in the what was that, even like a museum? Is that a bank in London?
Bank.
A bank.
Oh yeah.
So
bank.
that entire scene in the bank.
Or no, it was like a church or something. Like
I thought it was a
school.
bank.
If it's a bank, I don't.
They were doing
because they were doing a field
whatever.
trip. So regardless, the entire scene where she's like zooming across, catching all the bullets, that just looks dumb.
Instead of just going straight to the guy.
I mean that too, but like no, it just looks dumb the way that she moves to do that. Like I feel like visually you can do that differently. But I don't know. I like I said, I just don't like that imagery of them teleporting across the screen, and it happens constantly throughout the film.
All the time, yeah.
When like anytime they're doing any action sequence, like the big sewer fight, where Wonder Woman just zooms across the screen to immediately do a knee into somebody's gut into the wall. You know, like it doesn't look good. It just looks very not cartoony. That's not the right word, but it just doesn't look. And none of the CGI really in this looks good. It looks very stylized.
No, that was another point that I was gonna make. Did they actually have any real locations, or were all of them CGI? Because my God, even the Bruce Manor was fucking CGI.
I mean, the biggest scene, not biggest, but like one of the other ones that just kind of caught my eye. I mean, visually it looked really pretty, but it looked really fake, which obviously is very purposeful because they could make it not look fake. But like the scene where Clark and Lois are in the field and you just see the sunset behind them, like that entire scene just looks so artificial.
I must not have paid attention to that because that part was like yawn.
And
honestly,
it could have been real, but it just looked really artificial, and I think a lot of it has to come down to the grading and the way they composite things, and that's
also
all the VFX.
Cyborg looked fucking weird. I didn't like the way they did him.
I think that there was a pretty clear difference between the shots that you could tell that had been finished for the original cut and shots that had been finished for this. I think that due to time and
Probably.
a little bit of money, that there wasn't quite as much time and effort put into
Probably.
the shots that they had to finish up for this movie.
I
And
understand
those were the
that.
shots that seem most obvious to me. I can think of a number of times when I felt the exact same way as you. And you have to remember, I agree, there was something that was a little bit off about the cyborg body.
didn't look right.
And it has to do with the time, because the other cyborg moved more naturally, but the costume was a lot less interesting, and he had a lot less just stuff to do during the movie, so they gave him a lot more powers and stuff like that. I will say, the Steppenwolf redesign, night and day. So much better in this movie. I thought his fucking armor was cool
sick.
as shit.
Yeah.
I did see the before and after, and I agree. But still,
He looked more like a regular guy with prosthetics on before, and now he looks like a fucking monster.
Yeah, he looked like a monster. He also looked really ugly, which is fine.
was the purpose. But
I
yeah,
mean, that's the whole point.
Johnny,
Yeah.
did you have something else from a little bit ago?
It was a cyborg thing. I didn't
Okay.
like him. He didn't look right. And it's not, it was the CGI. It was just the way that his mouth moved when he was talking.
oh, for sure.
And
I know what you're talking
and the way his body would move when they did a full body shot. It just
There was
it
some
didn't look right.
weirdness. There
Yeah,
was some
yeah.
weirdness, and I don't know exactly what it is, but you're right. There was something that was slightly off. It wasn't enough to bother me, but you're right.
See,
Let's go to the epilogue because I fucking hated it. I hated it.
I was disappointed.
The whole Batman having premonitions and dreams and shit pisses me off. And then also Martian Manhunter just randomly showing up and knowing exactly, and then Bruce Wayne just knowing exactly who this is and being like, okay, cool, you can know my secret identity, sweet. It just, the whole epilogue should have been yeeted out of existence and it would have been fine.
see, the
That's
interesting thing
that's my
about
hot
the
take.
epilogue is that's clearly was them setting up for future films that they're not gonna do.
Right.
Not at
With
least for-
Superman turning bad and
Well, no,
Are
no,
they
no,
ever
no,
gonna
no,
get
no,
to
no,
it?
no. That was all the alternate timeline. What they are doing right now is fixing that alternate timeline. So he's having nightmares about them still failing in a way, but I don't know, because it's basically
they're saying that Lois Lane dies and then it throws
Right.
him off a thing.
Right. That's the alternate. I mean, obviously, if they were to do a full trilogy, they would win at the end of the day. But the way that they're kind of handling that aspect of it was kind of like the Injustice storyline where Superman does go evil and stuff like that, right? But the way that they were doing it or alluding was that Darkseid was going to come, wreck shop, kill everybody, and then that was going to cause all the other things to unravel. And basically how they would probably do that would be just that, or maybe just barely was about to succeed, and then they were able to pull out a Hail Mary and basically reverse time or do something like they did with Avengers Endgame and basically undo that. That's kind of, I think, what they were setting up for. But
I know what they were setting up for. I fucking hated it.
Right.
I mean,
Jared
look,
Leto's Joker sucks.
Jared. So here's the thing. I still don't like Jared Leto's Joker. I didn't feel like he needed to be in the movie. I liked kind of the injustice tease we got at the end, because one of the most interesting parts of this movie for me was, first of all, that one of the biggest differences, in addition to the specific things I mentioned before, is that the narrative of this movie is just so much more clear. Everything has a purpose. And what I liked about this movie is that it actually set up a lot more having to do with Superman's return. It felt less like a ham-fisted, like, whoops, we killed off this guy last movie. We got to bring him back in this one, or else people are going to be upset, because they seem to be implying that I'm not very familiar with the comics versions of the New Gods, of which Darkseid is one. But so the New Gods have this connection with the Mother Boxes. There seems to be some implication that Darkseid has some kind of control or power over them, or there's something about them that has something else going on, and we know that they're kind of vaguely evil based off of the interaction that we see Cyborg have towards the end of the film. They seem to be implying that when the Mother Box brought Superman back, that he didn't really come back all the way. He's still Superman, he's still got his memories, but something's off, which is why I really liked the title of that sixth part, which is Something Darker, where they seem to be hinting at this idea, and the way that also that Superman fights, he's so brutal, he really doesn't kind of hold back any punches,
Yeah,
that
'cause he was going
that
hard
there's
on
something going on.
what's-his-face.
And if Zack, if this movie had come out as Zack Snyder intended, and if he had still been handed the reins to the DC universe, the next step in this series was going to be Darkseid coming to Earth and doing trying to retake Earth again so he could get the anti-life equation.
Yeah.
Where I assume whatever power the Mother Box had, whatever his connection with the Mother Box was, that he was going to somehow compel or control Superman, and that Superman would either be inadvertently responsible for Lois Lane's death, which is who I believe the charred corpse was in his arms, and then once Lois Lane dies, Superman,
is gone.
He's off the leash, so he could basically be the worst version of himself. So honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing that on screen. It's an interesting take. We'll never see it though.
I wouldn't either. We'll see if that ever comes to fruition. But
yeah, it probably won't. But I thought it was interesting.
My final thoughts on it. I don't think it was a bad movie. I don't think it was at all. I hate that just because they didn't set up all the stuff with prior movies. You had to have all that stuff in there, and it just drags the entire movie down, which is sad. But even with all that saying, like I said earlier, you could still cut out a lot of the slow motion. Not all of it. There's parts where it's justified, like I said, the Flash. There's other moments too where you can still keep it, but mitigating that down, you can cut it down to a 3-hour movie. I think easy. Still
out of 10.
Out of 10. I mean, I think it's probably like a 7. If I'm being perfectly honest, it's not a bad movie.
Okay.
I'd give pacing a 3.5 to 4 out of 10, but
sure.
It's not a bad movie. It
sure.
just
out of 10. I would give it a 6 just because of the origin. If we were to take that out, I would give it a 7.5, maybe 8.
I feel pretty comfortable giving it an 8. It's something I'd recommend. And as I stated on our podcast that we released earlier this week, when I wanted to see this movie, my expectation was I want to see something different. I got that. Check that box. And I got something I didn't even ask for. I got a better movie. I would even call it a good movie. And for that, I was so happy. It's a movie I'll probably rewatch. I enjoyed it thoroughly. If it comes out on Blu-ray, it's something I might even buy. So, you know what? I'm going to say I recommend it to watch. And especially for you guys, if you're kind of interested in the sort of the evolution of film as it kind of transfers over from director to director, I recommend, if just for comparison's sake, checking out maybe the first 30 minutes of Justice League or just bits and pieces, just so you can see the tremendous difference.
Mm-hmm.
See, my final thing I'll say is I 100% believe that this is a far grander movie than what came before, but it's Avengers fun. When it first came out, it set the bar really high, and I think if this movie came out first, this could potentially have set the bar, but it didn't, and I just don't think it lives up to that hype. But
sure.
It was still a very well done, crafted film, and it's great.
And Zack Snyder, if you want to come on the podcast, just drop by. Love to have you. We could chat. It'd be great. Anyway, thanks, guys. Thanks for listening. If you tuned in through the whole way, follow us on Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, talking_XP. We'll include some links. Anyway.
Thanks for listening, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed watching the movie just as much as we did. And yeah, go ahead and follow us on all the social media, and go ahead and follow us on all of our D&D stuff too, because we got a lot of that stuff. All right, guys.
Peace out. Have a good night.